If you've been waiting and hoping for her to change, it's not necessarily because you're in denial. It's likely because you've seen something in her that feels real and rare, and you're waiting for her or that version of her to come back to stay. So you've seen that vulnerable side, you felt that deep connection, that chemistry was undeniable. And there were moments when you felt like she genuinely loved you and that you really mattered to her. But then the shift happened, and now it feels like you're dealing with a completely different woman. I'm Lise Leblanc, and in the next 12 minutes or so, I'm going to explain 7 reasons why a narcissistic partner is not likely to change. And stick with me till the end because I'm going to tell you a hard truth that no one wants to tell you. And the first reason that it doesn't get better is that there is very little continuity between these different versions of her. So when you're with a narcissistic or even a borderline partner, you've met at least 3 distinct versions of her. There's that warm, engaging, charming, connected version. And unfortunately, after the love bombing or idealization phase, you'll mostly only see this side in public. Then there's the vulnerable, almost childlike version of her. And then there's the critical, controlling, punishing, jealous, raging version. And it's like these versions have never met. They don't connect with each other. So here's an example. You might have a great night together. You're out laughing, connecting. Maybe she's praising you, saying that you're the best thing that's ever happened to her. You might even have great sex that night. And you think, okay, we're finally getting somewhere. And then some tiny thing happens to set her off. Maybe you question something. You say or do something minor, like maybe, I don't know, you put something in the wrong spot in the fridge, let's say, or you were polite to the waitress. And just like that, she flips and you go from hero to zero instantly. Now she's blaming you, shaming you, pulling you into arguments that don't even make sense. And that good version of her that you just experienced moments ago is gone, vanished into thin air as though it never even existed. And like I said, over time, you see less and less of that good version of her. The second reason is that you believe that the vulnerable version of her is the real her. And you spend the rest of your relationship waiting for that version of her to come back. And that's that part of her that felt so open and soft and in need of your love and protection that made you feel needed, indispensable. And those moments didn't feel fake. It felt like who she really is at her core. So now, when you see the other sides of her, the criticism, the control, the way she turns on you, the way she's all nice in public and mean behind the scenes, you don't take that as her true self. You treat it like a bad moment. You blame it on past trauma and you rationalize her behavior and continue to give her the benefit of the doubt. And you give more time, effort, and energy thinking that if you give up now, some other guy is going to show up and get that good version of her for good. But he won't. He's just going to get stuck in the same cycle, just like every guy before you and every guy after you. And it only gets worse over time. The third reason is that you are only as good as what you are providing in the moment. So your value is directly tied to what you are supplying in any given moment. And that supply can be attention, it can be money, it can be resources, it can be emotional labor, but it's your willingness to meet her needs on demand. And as long as you're supplying her, you might buy yourself a moment of peace. But the moment you disappoint her, the moment you say no, stop over functioning, or express a need of your own, she can turn quickly. And now you're the selfish one. And all your good deeds from before are forgotten. None of it matters now. Now you don't care. You're self centered. Maybe she's calling you a narcissist. And that's the trap because you're here thinking you're building a loving relationship. But often you're only as good as what you're supplying in that moment. And the minute you stop, you are nothing to her. Number four is her shame gets externalized. In these types of relationships, they always start super strong. But at some point, you go from being the perfect partner to being the perfect problem. Suddenly, she's accusing you, blaming you, and because you think the things she's complaining about must be a real problem, you try to fix them. But then at some point, you're going to realize that the problems are never ending. And that's because you're not actually the problem. The real problem is that she is full of shame and she's externalizing it. So, for someone with strong narcissistic or borderline traits, shame is overwhelming, and the psyche often protects itself by externalizing that shame because owning those feelings of shame feels intolerable. And once her shame gets projected onto you and tied to you, and you start believing that you're actually the cause of what she's feeling, the relationship no longer grows. It unravels because, from her point of view, from now on, the only problem in this relationship is you. The fifth reason this relationship is not going to improve is that you're the only one holding it together. And here's the part most men don't want to look at: this relationship works because you're making it work. You're the one adjusting, managing your tone, shrinking yourself to avoid setting her off, tolerating behavior that should have consequences. And think about what that means. What would happen if you stopped absorbing all the blame, the shame, the chaos? Let me tell you what would happen. The dysfunction would escalate, and you would see more rage, more punishment, more contempt, and a lot more victimhood. And the relationship probably will collapse because your efforts to keep the peace are actually what's holding the dysfunction in place. And as long as you keep absorbing, accommodating, and tolerating, nothing has to change. In fact, some of the very behavior that's hurting you is getting rewarded and reinforced by you. So, if your boundaries would destabilize the relationship, then it's your self betrayal that's likely stabilizing it. The sixth reason that these relationships don't get better is because of her complete inability to take accountability. And without accountability, nothing changes. So, what I'm talking about here is the ability to say, I was wrong. I hurt you. That was on me. And actually hold that without blame shifting, without excuses, without turning it back onto you. And what you'll find in this relationship is that does not happen. And if you get a rare apology, it doesn't last. It always flips back onto you. And then she is the victim again. So if nothing ever gets owned on her side and it's always on you, then nothing will ever change. The seventh reason that nothing changes is because she doesn't want to change or she does not want help. So a lot of men hold on to the idea that if she would just go to therapy, maybe then the relationship could work. And that's where a lot of men get stuck because sometimes she doesn't want help, like legitimately does not think she needs to change. And other times she might go to therapy and then come home saying the therapist agrees with her that you're the problem. And now therapy is actually making things worse. So let's be clear. Change is doing the deep internal work and sticking with it, especially when it gets uncomfortable. And it will. And some people won't tolerate that. So she may resist therapy and she might use it to get validation. And the moment she's confronted, she might quit. So if she won't do the work, or if she's been in therapy for years and you're still seeing the same patterns, that is your answer. This might be as good as it gets. So you really have to ask yourself whether you can accept her and the relationship exactly as it is. So here's the hard truth that maybe no one's told you yet. Trying to change a narcissist and hanging on to the hope that they'll change is the best way to stay stuck, potentially for the rest of your life. So stop arguing, stop adjusting and apologizing, and accept the reality of the situation as it is. Because the truth is, you've known for a long time that this isn't going to change. And it's not because you didn't try hard enough. It's because you've seen this pattern repeat over and over again. And deep down, you already know where this goes. You can predict it. So the question isn't, is she a narcissist? It's not even, is this going to get better? The question is, what am I going to do with what I already know? Because at some point, clarity isn't the problem. The problem is having the courage to do something about it and to stop abandoning yourself, to stop hanging your hat on hope. So, one thing you can do this week is read the book Stop Walking on Eggshells if you haven't already, and start setting and enforcing boundaries in a healthy, mature way. Because boundaries don't just protect you, they expose the truth of the relationship. And if you're ready to break free, consider working with a therapist in your area who specializes in narcissistic abuse. And I've also put together a program specifically for men in this situation, which I've linked below. Thanks so much for watching. Please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.